today we're looking at the Boss Waza Tube Amp Expander Core. These names are getting longer and longer while the products are getting smaller. And as he promotes a Boss product in a review, not a demo, and also talks about Boss cables, he sports a Sommercable mug that they made for my mom. So it's got her name on it. Sommercable. Also good. Sorry, boss. They gave me a mug. Okay? This is where my loyalties lie. With the mug cable people. I deliberately didn't unwrap the Boss cables because they're kind of cool. And I want to do that with you. So as we do that, don't do that, kids. What do we start with? Yeah, we're taking it out of the box. That's what we're doing.
Power amp's got a honeyed roar, but soft is better, let it pour. Air feel rising, sleek, refined, small and light, it blows your mind. Reactive load is where it's at, take it down smooth like a cool cat. Your tone intact, never shy, play it quiet and touch the sky. Oh, bossy boss feels like a jam, expanding hearts with tube amp glam. Effects so sweet they steal the floor, Boss Tube Amp Expander Core. Attenuate, bring down the beast. Turn it low, it's still a feast. Every drop, pure golden sound. Whisper soft, it still astounds. Great effects, it's all in the vibe. Melody rides, you're feeling alive. Compact size, yet fills the halls. Attenuate and break those walls. Oh, bossy boss feels like a jam. Expanding hearts with tube amp glam. Effects so sweet, they steal the floor. Boss Tube Amp Expander Core. It's all in the vibe. Take it down smooth like a cool cat. Your tone intact, never shy. Play it quiet and touch the sky. Oh, bossy boss feels like a jam. Expanding hearts with tube amp glam. Effects so sweet they steal the floor. Boss Tube Amp Expander Core.
Okay, so now that it's out of the box, we're going to talk about what it is before we go into product shots and a million other things. You've seen the length of this video. You've seen the length of this video, so you know what's coming. What do I do with the scissors? I'm prepared, but it's all too much stuff. It is an attenuator, but it really isn't. At least not in my understanding. So an attenuator, to me, and I might be fully wrong about that, when you hear attenuator, you think you can take a big amp, reduce its power, and pump less power into the speaker. You're making a loud amp quieter, which is, in essence, what the TAE will do. It is also, in essence, what the Torpedo Reload did, what the Fryette Power Station will do. But those three, for example, do it differently. Instead of eating up some of the power and letting only a portion of it through so the cap will be quieter, for example, what the UA aux does, okay? It is not active attenuation, it literally just lets some of it through. Or the Iron Man from Tone King, many others, when they attenuate. Some of these boxes, by the way, are not attenuators, like the Torpedoes or the Red 7 Amp Central. They are load boxes. They eat up all the power from your amp and give you a DI signal, but they do not make your cap quieter. This does it in the same way that the Reload or the Fryette Power Station will do, by eating up all the power from the amp, so being a load box, right? Completely this in here, everything down to line level. And then it's got a built-in power amp. And then you can make it loud again. So the difference between what I would call a true attenuator, of letting only a portion of the sound through, right? Or a portion of the energy through to the cap, and reducing the power of the amp into the cap. This reduces it completely, just like the power station or the power station, and others, and then now making it loud again, which in a way is a more precise and more adjustable way of doing it, I guess, right? A lot of the attenuators have click, click, click things, like the Ox, like the Iron Man. They have clicky, clicky, clickies. And here you literally have a volume knob again. And this is giving you 30 watts of power into a cab. Now, what kind of power? I tried to find out. Usually, Boss uses class AB, like in the Katana. And I know that's what they're using in the big tube amp expander. In here, I found some cryptic reactive power amp something fairy dust. I have no idea. There's discussion on the web, but I couldn't find anything. I tried to call 2 people at Boss this morning, but they sleep, apparently. I don't know. Couldn't reach anyone. So that information I can't give you, what kind of power amp it is. I doubt it's a Class D, because it sounds more alive than a Class D, but I cannot tell you. So that gives you 30 watts into a cab. So yes, it is not just a load box. It is also an amplifier with 30 watts. Killer. And that's really a big thing. So there's a benefit of that kind of attenuation. Let's talk about that for a second. I'm sorry, these videos are complicated. When you are just letting power through, let's, for example, take the aux, you cannot add to the signal, right? Because you're just taking some power, turning that into heat, and then goes to the cab. Now the aux, for example, just like this, has great effects. Compression, reverb, and delay. But that only ends up on the DI signal going to front of house or your recording system or whatever, so you can only hear it in the line level signal. But by having a built-in amp, they're taking your amp down to line level, adding the effects, and then it goes out of the XLR into your DAW. But because it is line level, which then gets amplified, they can add the effects to it and also send them to the cab. So there's a massive benefit to that. In the power station, for example, it's got an effects loop, and the effects from the effects loop will end up in your cab. So amplifying the line level has huge benefits of what can end up in your actual guitar cab. Understood? That's what's happening. We got a line out. That's what's going out of the XLR in the back, which is, of course, killer, XLR stereo right here. And you can see it's not connected right now. And we got phones for the front if you want to practice quietly. And of course, it also has the effects applied. And I'm sorry, Boss, for mentioning all these competing brands, but that's first of all what a review does. And secondly, putting some perspective in what this is at the price point, which is what we do here, right? It's not a Boss's great show. Which it is, but that's not the idea. Don't do this, kids. Reactive load. Most boxes have a speaker that they kind of emulate. Well, not in terms of what you're hearing, but in terms of what the amp is seeing. So the tubes from the amp, they want to see a speaker. And the way I understand it, because I don't know things and I do this for a living, okay? I don't know electronic-y bits and filaments and transistors. The tubes need to see a speaker because they talk to it. So the tubes talk to the speaker, and the speaker says, I'm doing this. So, hey, tubes, look, that's what I'm doing. So there's a reactive, they react to each other in some fairy dust kind of wizardy way. Think Harry Potter, something like that. And most of these boxes do one type of speaker at 112 or 412, some kind of reactance. Now, on the big Waza tube amp expander, you could tune that with a couple of buttons and switches, and didn't really do much, but it did something. And here, they went with at least a switchable combo, reactance, or a stack. Nice. More than others have. You got 10 rigs, which you can dial in here, but of course you can also switch with foot switches, with a phone, whatever, we'll get to that. There's a right button, which you can't really do too much on this front panel anyway. So really all that you can write is where the airfield knob is. Now the airfield is what on others might be called room or ambience. It adds a too big studio reverb, if you ask me. I don't think this is as good as, well, I'm going to say it. I don't think anyone beats the room that UA has, period. They just have the best room. This adds some ambience, but I think it's considerably too much. It doesn't feel to me like the amp is moving away from you or the mics in a beautiful studio. It sounds like you're adding reverb, which is not what this is supposed to be. But it does add some ambience that makes it not right here, which is the whole idea. In the back, we have the power in. It has an external power supply, as you saw in the unboxing. A bit annoying that it doesn't have just a big IEC plug, because those are easy to come by, and the external power supply is about this big. And that has an IEC plug, but that means you have to lug that around with you as well when you go into a gig or something. So not ideal, but okay, that's how it is. Big MIDI in, great. USB-C, great, you know? With all the bitching, we need to point out the great things. These are great things. XLR line out with the ground lift option. This is the BT Dual module for the Bluetooth connectivity, which I highly recommend just getting with it so that you have phone control or foot switch control. There's a level for the effects loop, and the effects loop, and this is beautiful, other companies should do this, is protected with these rubber caps. Because it has built-in effects, I'm not even going to show you this. The effects loop sits before the built-in effects. But we're going to talk about that later when we look at the editor. Beautiful in red. We have maximum 100 watt, whatever that means. We've talked about this in many videos. Is this 100 watt RMS or clean amp? Does it actually, survive 150 watt? Or does it survive a cranked plexi for 10 minutes? I cannot tell you what this means, and don't take this for granted saying, I have a plexi, I will crank it to maximum and have it running at 4 hours. No attenuator will like that. Your plexi will probably give up before the attenuator does. But don't take a ridiculously big amp, crank it to, max, don't dime it, and then run it for 4 hours like I did. Take breaks, do 10 minutes, record, turn it down, let things cool down, do that. So, and in the back, you can even, it's kind of like a pre-selection for how much you're pumping into it. A 10 watt amp, a 50 watt amp, or a 100 watt amp. The amp we have here is maybe 50-ish, something like that. So we're going to go there. And the whole idea of that is to make that light here turn green and not red or orange. Okay? That being said, now we're just gonna look at some product shots. While we're at clips that are pre-produced, let's quickly go into a little bit of noodling, not a lot, with the Kochnes Monster pedal, which is amazing from Jam Pedals. Just a little noodle track that I did going through this on rig number 1, which now has 2 IRs from Hop-Hole Studio on it. Okay, now it's time to take the cables. I mean, come on. You got to give this to Boss. I have no idea why they sent them to me, because maybe they think I don't have cables. I have cables, quite a few. But this is cool. Color matched with famous pedals or whatever, made to look like a pedal. And these are quality cables. Many people don't know this, but Boss does make quality cables. They make great patch cables, solderless patch cables. Not very cheap, right? But they make good cables. Oh, they also make good packaging. And because they were kind enough, without being prompted, to send these, we'll use them. Oh, look, Velcro. Nice. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to go into the, as of yet, secret looper pedal that's on the floor. Okay, can't see it. That's why we got it covered. It's not a Boss pedal. Can't tell you about it. Seriously, folks, solid cables. Can't bitch about that. Nice plugs, shrink wrapped. Nice. Extremely solid looking speaker cables. 15 feet and even long ones. Most companies don't have really long speaker cables. That's a chunky cable if I've ever seen one. So before we connect this with the amp now, and I'll quickly tell you what the connection is, I want to show you a thing about this, which is very strange. This critique doesn't just fall on Boss. It falls on a bunch of companies that make on top of amp devices. Like load boxes, for example, okay? There are several things that are supposed to go on amplifiers. For example, sometimes other amplifiers, in stores or at home, you are stacking amps on top of each other. You can see this amp has pretty high feed, right? There's clearance. Now, amp companies love these leather handles. They're nice. They're on cabs. They are on amps. Now, if you have an amp with feet too short to put it on a cab that has a leather handle, the amp will swivel and not stand correctly. How in the world is it legal to make amplifiers that have short feet? It just annoys the living shit out of me, because it makes them incompatible with cabs with leather handles. Now, companies like, for example, Boutique Amps Distribution, the Sin 20 IR, the beautiful head, they make cabs with leather handles. Can't put that head on their own cabs. So there are companies where you cannot put their products on their own cabs. Don't do that. So the Boss Katana. I mean, you wouldn't put this on a Boss Katana, okay? I get it. Boss Katana has a DI out. But it has one of these leather handles. So Boss's product isn't compatible with their own products. Yeah, you can put it here, I get it. But sometimes you can't. If you have a small head with a leather handle where you cannot go next to it, like on this one, it would just work. You wouldn't be able to actually put it on an amp with a leather handle because the feet are too short. So Boss designers, please, when you make boxes that go on top of amps, make it have long feet so that you can put it on any amp with any handle. And this, in their defense, doesn't just go to Boss, it goes to everyone, because way too many companies are making that mistake. Now, we're going to hook it up. 8 ohm out, into the tube amp expander, from speaker, into speaker. And that was pretty much it. But what you could see, the input to the TAE core is 8 ohm only, which I think is fine. It's the most commonly used and compatible ohmage, but there is no switch on it or anything. So it is 8 ohm, and there isn't, as far as I know, a 16 ohm or whatever version. I don't know why you would need that, but all I'm saying is 8 ohm only. So we've got this amp here, which is perfect for this review because it is essentially a non-master volume got a power knob. Classic amp without an effects loop, because Joe Morgan doesn't like effects loops. So adding delay and reverb to the amp is rather difficult, unless you're loading it down completely, adding it here, and then amplifying it again. Cool, huh? Right? So even if you never use this as a DI solution, you don't want to use it for the built-in cabs, IR loading, you don't care about that shit. You could have 10 different rigs with 10 different combinations of reverb and delay and compression, and use this as a quieter maker and effects box for your Plexi, JTM, MVP, and all that. Now I'm going to play a loop and quickly go to the mixer next door and set up the levels for the mics. Let's see if I can do this loop without... Did I just click it? So this is a cranked amp now, right? Any kind of speaker I will select here from my rigs won't have effect in my actual speaker, which, by the way, we're miking with an SM57, a AEA R90 right there, ribbon mic in combination, that's great. And as always now in the room, we've got an AEA R88A, big stereo ribbon mic about 1.50 m away, and the combination of that gets us a very realistic in the room sound. So this amp is great when you're pulling back the volume. And there I have delay and reverb, which is really, really nice. Nice thing is, even if I'm cranking the amp now, even if I'm getting the gain up, I will still have these effects because they are behind everything, right? As far as I know, none of the others have effects, but let's see. No, none of the built-in presets have effects, except the one that I made. How loud can it get? I mean, I don't know. You're only going to hear distortion because the mics are set up for this level, but it is above bedroom level now, and we're at about 9.5-ish o'clock. You can rehearse with that. You can kick a drummer's bum with that. I mean, okay, it's not 100 watt stack level, it's 30 watts, whatever they're using, but yeah, it's loud enough for government work, as they say. That means we want to edit the effects right here, for which I'll need the app. But that means First, I'll run you through the editor. That takes about half an hour to show you everything. And where you also hear all the nice DI soundages and the air feel. None of this we can actually demo right here with the cab, because the air feel is applied to the direct out only. Because in this room, I have air feel because it's air. So let's do that, and I'll see you in about half an hour. So here we are in the app. Be prepared to spend a while with me in this mode before I go back to me in the studio, because this really illustrates a lot of the stuff that's going on behind the front panel of this thing. One thing that's not going on behind the front panel, as I just realized, is a gate. You're looking for that and you can't find it. And so I'm sitting here, and it's right there actually. That's where the TAE is. And there's just this hum buzz going on the whole time. Of course, you could put a gate into the effects loop, but I'm thinking this is something that would be very smart to have in this device. However, okay, the aux and others also don't have a gate. You know what I might be doing for this, so that it's not annoying? I will apply a gate in my mixer, because I'm going into the X4 from Universal Audio. So I'm putting an API channel strip in here, which has a gate. And that way it's not going to be continuously buzzing in the video. But yes, boss, pay attention please. Having a gate in here is a good idea. But I'm already having fun. What you're hearing is the Synergy Syn 20 with the Z-Rec module, so that's all like cranked AC30 sounds with this D'Angelico Premier series for $699, pretty impressive guitar. And now we're gonna go into the software. So that's connected with USB-C right now. I think I just downloaded the app that everything I do in here can also be done in the app with Bluetooth, remotely, wirelessly. So we're going to look at that later in the video, but this is, of course, an easier way to illustrate it. So we've got the cab mic page. We've got the editor page where you go into effects and stuff like this and EQ settings. We've got the IR loader page. I loaded a whole bunch of IRs from my friend Adam Steele from Hotpole Studios. There is the librarian where you create live sets and you can import and export different live sets. So if you need a different 10 different rigs for a different gig, you could do that. And here's the whole menu, and we're of course gonna go through that. So, but first, let's see what's actually happening when we switch rigs. So I'm on stack at the moment, and I'm on rig 1. And if I switch it on the front panel, you can see what happens. It's switching rigs. Okay, so let's go through them with a couple of power chords. How about that? All the IRs that are loaded in there and the IR rigs that they put together feel as if they have a lot more top end, which is kind of weird. Next one. there you have it. Nothing that massively floors me, but it's highly tweakable. So let's go into that before we go into anything else. Let's look at this screen right here. We have two mics. There is a bit of a bug here because the mute button on the B mic disappears. So when it's muted, it actually just disappears. It's supposed to look like this, just sliding up. So that's a bug in the software. I'm sure they can fix that. So you just click where the mute button would be, okay? And I can move this mic, and that actually shows me the ribbon in this case. If I want a different mic, I'm going to go to a condenser. I can move that around. So let's look at the 57. I'm going to use driven sounds for now because it's much easier to actually hear what's happening with the frequency response. So these have points where they snap in. You can't freely position. You can see their snap points. I don't know how to play guitar. So about here is where I would want to have it. Airfield down. Thank you. That's the other mic. And of course, you've got a 451, 421, and 257s. Or the ribbon. So that's the combination that we would all want. So let's activate it, and it disappears. And that now it's muted. Wait. That's what I want. There's supposed to be a level here, but we also don't see that. The editor is finicky. Yeah, this is usually a level. Oh, wait. Now I just pumped it into the speaker. Yeah, there's supposed to be a level. I don't know why we don't see that. So the mix assist, the manual describes as there are 3 different settings where one can filter out the frequency response that would mask other instruments, so making the guitar more transparent to vocals and whatever, and other settings make the great frequencies in the guitars more prominent. Sorry, boss, here manuals. I need more. I need more explanation of what Mix Assist actually does, because I have no idea what this does. And then there's a transient. By the way, you can use the mouse wheel to adjust this, which would be, a lot nicer and finer than doing it with moving this is moving the mouse, and this is mouse wheel. So much nicer adjustments. So let's play around with the Mix Assist. It makes a huge difference, whatever the difference is. I got a weighted mouse wheel, isn't that cool? I have no clue, but when we turn it off, I mean, there's clearly some kind of compression happening. We definitely want that on, and I don't know why. So, airfeel is supposed to be the room that the cab is in, right? But it's a reverb. It's not a room. It's not like what other companies use as a room. It's a reverb. So... And of course, a room is a reverb, but what I'm trying to say is, with other, well, I say UA has the best room. It doesn't sound like applying a reverb. It sounds like you're just moving into this beautiful studio space, and you can really envision the cab in that room. What happens here is you can envision reverb being added to that cab. And I know it sounds like it's the same thing, but it isn't. It's also way too much. And the other one. So being more subtle with that is a good idea. It's better than nothing. Not industry best. Oh, we have a level back. Do you look at that? And, okay, when I play it, no, interface is a little bit messed up. So, up here, you pick the cab, and those are the virtual cabby things where you've got all the different mics and all that stuff. They're not IRs. Of course, they are kind of IRs, but it's, let's call it cab modeling or whatever you want to call that. So let's go classic stack. Definitely a lot of stuff already in there. Tweet combo. So then you can switch this whole thing to IR, and now you can load two different IRs, mix them, and this is the time alignment. When we're on 0 in the middle, would be nice if it actually had an indent so I know exactly where I am. It also, I cannot read where I am, so this would be both of them aligned perfectly. This will move, well, one of them back, maybe A, and this will move the other one back. You've got phase inverts, so this is to align them. There are things on the market like the Fractal, which does an auto align and looks for 0 points and does this automatically for you. Because by not having the right alignment and phase alignment, you can get really horrible phasing sounds. So let's see. These are, by the way, all the Celestion cabs, which are here these, which come with it. So there are Celestion certified, made by, and so on, IRs already in there. You can hear the phasing when I do that. Now that's a hollow sound, that's not good. Even more hollow. Honestly, I would not leave that up to the user. I would make sure there is some kind of auto align feature. So let's do a fun thing. Let's load my own. So let's go to, I made sure I always have the 57 and the ribbon here. Here the fat G12 something that Adam did. And then the fat G12 with the ribbon. We can see that here, fat G12 57, fat G12 ribbon. And now I can mix those. Let's get the level of the airfield down. Not bad. Airfield up on the actual box. And you got more fine control there. I guess one of the differences of the airfield versus a reverb is the airfield only shows up on the TAE out. I assume because there's no point in having it show up on the speaker out. Let me see. Exactly. Because the whole simulation doesn't show up on the speaker out because the speaker, guess what, sounds like a speaker. Just for fun, let's go to combo instead of stack on the actual TAE. I mean, you couldn't see what I was doing, but also it doesn't really matter because it's probably more of a feel thing than an audible thing. So I guess we covered this actual cap thing. You can go to presets, go to the boss caps, or go to IRs and use your own. These are the rigs. And if I like this now, and I do, why not? Still a bit much here. So I can say right, rig 1. Renaming it, of course, won't show up on the actual box. Let's call it Wobble. Done. So we have this. And now we can go into the editor. You can see the different rigs again. You can switch there. Big difference between the built-in caps and this. I mean, it's all a matter of taste, but I'm fighting a bit of falling in love with what's built in. Tweakable, yes, but it just all feels as if it needs some tweaks. Hold on to your horses, boss. I'm still gonna say nice things because you made a pretty cool box. So, here we got the input, the effects loop, which comes first, okay? So, we can turn that off. The effects loop is mono. That's a big gripe because the whole thing has a stereo output and uses stereo for the built-in effects, but why not a stereo? Maybe TRS, plugs, so you can use insert cables. But you can, of course, put external effects in there, and they come first. And then it shows you if there's a signal or not. Then you can compress. I cannot move that compressor anywhere. So that's on right now. And you have a rack compressor or VTG rack, whatever. So for that, maybe I go to a clean channel or just actually dial back the gain. Yeah, very lively sounds there. That's with the compressor. Let's go to real clean channel. I'm learning jazzy things. So that's pretty damn cool. Threshold down a bit. Oh, yeah, doing this with a mouse, you see, you don't have a lot of fine control, but with a mouse wheel, very much so. Okay, so then we got the delay. We've got several. You turn that on. My gripe is right here. It turns from dark gray to light gray because some delays from Boss are silverish. And that's just, I mean, look at the reverb. Bam, you turn that on. It turns very much green. Look at the compressor. You turn that on. It turns very much blue. Look at the delay. You turn that on and it goes from gray to gray. Boss, who designs your interfaces? Very nice effects in there. And the great thing is if I turn that up to my in-the-room speaker, which of course is only recorded with my vocal mic, but still, it you can see everything comes out of the actual speaker because it's amplified with the built-in amplifier. Beautiful panning delay. Super cool. Stereo actually means guitar on one side, delay on the other. Or maybe it doesn't. It did mean that the other day, so that's weird. Analog. I really like the delays in here. It's all bread and butter stuff that really delivers. And you gotta remember that when you're buying this, buying a studio style compressor that's post and a delay and a reverb in this quality will run you several €100. So that's all included. Super neato. Would just be cool to have a different color. And the reverbs, again, bread and butter stuff. Effect level global. Of course, now the gate is really chomping down on that. So you can really practice with your amp, which was what I've been doing for a few days now. Just going into the cab in the room and having some really nice effects coming from the TAE without adding additional boxes. The rooms are the biggest ones. It's kind of weird. I like them. Again, the gate's killing them right now. Which is why it would be nice to have a gate right here before all of this, so that it wouldn't chomp them down. Okay, we turn that off. And you can, of course, go and program that into the rig. Here we've got the line EQ. So you can have a full EQ for what's coming out of the line level. There can be a graphic EQ, and I like that. Let's see. Super effective, and you can really shape your sound if your IR is almost there but not quite. Same thing with the fully parametric EQ. You have that same option on what's coming out of the speaker, which is pretty ridiculous. So let's try that. You can shape your speaker sound, again with my vocal mic in the room. So I really want that speaker sound to be brighter and have some high peaky. Oh, you also have to turn that shit on. Very nice. It's kind of what Palmer tried with the Supreme Soaker, with the speaker, with those voicings, but here you can literally do whatever you want. And if you wanted to, you can link the two, and then they're doing the same thing. So you got the same sound. Well, kind of, because your cab in the room is not possibly not the same cab that's being simulated. Okay? Why is this still on? Here we go. Ah, that's how you turn on off. So there's the mic here, which you can turn off, and then you have just the DI signal. Really horrible, but that's what you get, and then you can apply an IR with something else behind it if you wanted that. There's my line level. I can, of course, tailor that. There's my speaker level. I can change that, and it's not the knob on the front. It's a separate knob. There's signal, and there's my speaker, and there's my line. So you definitely have some options in this simple interface. It's a bit matter-of-factly, but that's Boss. That's how it is, okay? And we can see right here on that one, I did have some reverb on there. That's lovely. Great delay. Very nice. We want to get the level down, just a little bit of delay in the background. Jazz can be fun. Here's the IR loader. Just open a folder, right? Open a folder like this one. Everything in the folder shows up. You take it, you drag it over, you're done. That's how it is. There are 64 IR slots, and it takes a bit to load. Stereo IRs work. These are stereo, but they will be loaded into 2 slots, and you will actually have to, treat them like 2 separate ones. Here's the librarian. We're not going to go into that. Oh my God, how long is this video already? And that's just a part of a video. Holy crapola. In the menu, USB settings is for using it as a USB interface, which of course you can do. There's a dry out, which is just your DI, and you could record a DI level and a simulated level at the same time. I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to try that. MIDI settings, what goes where, that's important for our little FS1W once I get that set up. But you can, of course, use any kind of MIDI pedals, speaker out EQ, something, and foot volume. You can use an expression pedal for volume. See, foot volume main. Yep, that also works. Of course, general MIDI channel. Here's the program map, what goes where, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it looks like you can save a lot more rigs when you're working with MIDI. So more than the 10 that you can dial in the front. Here's a global EQ, which is ridiculous because we already had that, but that was per preset. Now we have another EQ for the whole thing. Why is this relevant? So let's say you come to the gig and you realize that the stage is super boomy and you really need to take out something specific in the 147 hertz range. Well, then you go to the 147 whatever, the 125. You can actually click on that, double click. So let's go to that and really make a high Q and take the gain down, and bam, you'd have to turn it on. But that would only be for the speaker out. So this is a global adjustment that can really save your ass when you come to a gig. Of course, you're going to have to get to it somehow, but that's why you've got it loaded on your phone. FX loop mode, parallel or serial. I think we know what that means. The foot volume, pre-effect, and blah, blah. So that's for the expression pedal if you choose to have one. Speaker out polarity. For some reason, change that around. Maybe for, what's it called? Phasing issues. The Fletcher-Munson curve is pretty cool. That is on, and the whole idea is we hear low frequencies quieter than mids or highs at lower levels. So when we're pumping this into a speaker at bedroom level, this takes it into account saying, oh, you're actually being quieter than you should be. And then we're going to crank up the low end. It's like a loudness button on a stereo. Makes an awful lot of sense. Indicator P code is for the front thing. So if it's on a peak, it'll hold. And how long? The owner's manual, very important to download and go through it. I've done that. That's just for picking which device you're editing. Here's the version. I did do a firmware update. Trust me, that wasn't fun. And you can back up your data. This is probably where you're going to spend most of your time. And this to turn things on. Oh, we want to definitely write that because I like that as my clean thing. You know? Then I went right to C# minor. Okay, that's it as far as the editor goes. Now we're going to look at the app and see if we can see some of that stuff repeated there. And then hopefully we're done. Holy crap, there's a lot. Okay, and we're back. Wasn't that time you spent? We're going to connect it with the BT Dual in the back. That is a separate module, which you should get, to the phone app. They also sent me, full disclosure, the FS1W. I think that's Boss's reaction to the Exonic AirStep, which is a 5-button foot switch that can send key commands to your phone or your computer via Bluetooth, can send Bluetooth commands to your keyboard or this thing, but also has a small MIDI out, a USB-B MIDI out, control 1 and 2, so you can switch an amp with it, okay, analog style, expression input, which can be rerouted to MIDI volume, for example, for this, and all this light, durable plastic, nice rubber switches. I think this is a good product. However, I can make it work. I tried to connect it with this. I had Boss team give me instructions. I watched their videos. I read their manuals. I tried the next day. Holding it here, connecting it, doing everything that it said. I can't make it work. So I know it works because I've seen it work, but I can't do it. I might be too dumb. You can also connect it to your phone. This is a cool product if you can make it work, which I can't. So that being said, before we go into the phone app, Boss and software, they're not friends. As you could see with the editor, it's not sexy. The graphics are not sexy. The layout isn't sexy. It's not when you're making it bigger, when you're scaling it up, the whole interface doesn't scale up. All the stuff we've known from Boss. But to make this work on my Mac, I needed to install a driver. There are no drivers on Macs ever. Nothing needs a driver. Well, Boss stuff needs a driver. So it's not enough to install the editor. No. The editor only works when the driver is installed. And then you install the editor. Now this needs a firmware update. Of course. And then usually, that's how it should be, the editor says, oh, by the way, your product needs an update. Do you want that? Yes, click. And then it just does it through the editor, but not with Boss. You have to go on a third website. There's a website for the driver. There's a website for the editor. There's a website for the firmware, update. And that is a bin file that you download. Then you put this in a certain mode and certain light flashes tell you what the software version is. Then you put it in a different mode where this becomes a hard drive. Then you put the bin file on it. Then you turn it off and turn it on again to put it into firmware update mode now that it has the bin file. Boss, I'm sorry, other companies are kicking your ass so hard when it comes to update procedures. I had to do the same thing with the brilliant Katana Artist Gen 3. I want to just make this an honest review. In the software side with Boss, they need a team that looks at how everyone else is doing it and finds a way to do this with their stuff, because it is vastly horrible. Me not being able to follow their instructions and making this happen, I contribute to Boss and software not really best friends, okay? I think this is probably a very good product for a very fair price in a very small format, but again, can't make it work. So technically, you could remote control this with that. I can't. So I'm going to call up, because it says in the back, based on the light, that I'm connected. Let's just see if I am. You should be seeing what I'm seeing. And 3, 2, 1, click. Okay, it's looking. That connection only needed to happen once. It saw the TAE. It does take a while to actually connect. So being on stage and doing a quick adjustment, no. But once it's done with this, whenever that is, I mean, I can already see it in the back. If I'm switching here, I can already see it changing the programs in the back. I don't know what it's still doing. Looks like handshaking. It's a little handshake symbol or something. So it's clearly already doing its thing. I mean, they already have connection. I know, because I can see it. I'm not going to fast forward this. You're sitting here with me till that's done. See, Boss and software, and look, Boss must know this. Y'all know it. So this is not news. Okay, this is a thing that we just saw me doing in the big editor. We've got the hot pole thing. We can click on the different rigs. I can click on this selection rig, and now it's there, even though this front panel, of course, doesn't show you. We can't hear any of this. But in this rig, for example, it doesn't really matter what the speaker is because we're not hearing the speaker here in the studio. I can go into the editor. I can turn the effects loop off because we're not using it. I can turn the delay on, which is showing me gray on gray that it's on. Nice. So, see, you can really turn this just into an effects box if you wanted that and not use it as a speaker simulator for at home practicing 10 different full settings. That's cool. I don't want Amazon. Thank you. So delay up here. That's really nice. Single. Panning wouldn't help. Analog. Very nice. More feedback. So it's off now, but it has trails, which means that's an issue. There we go, that's how you do that. I assume that with the Footwitch, if you can connect it, you can also turn the different effects on and off if you wanted that. And then we're just gonna go spring, turn that on. And the EQ for the speaker out. I mean, let's do that. Why not? Turn that on. Yourself a cocked wah sound with the speaker out EQ for one of the presets. I mean, if you really wanted that, right? Pretty cool. I really want top end. So, you can really tailor things to your speaker. There's an EQ for the line out, speaker level. I mean, that's technically the same thing as on the front, but it actually isn't. And all the same stuff that we saw in the big editor, right? Everything you can do on the go, which is important because in your practice room, you're not going to take your computer with you. It's stupid, right? So the bottom line, built-in effects, love it. Speaker out, really cool. I mean, I was practicing with this in the other room for days. Just a little bit of reverb on it and plug in an amp, and bedroom level, 100% doable. 100%. This is the bedroom level box. The speaker simulations, you can load any IR and you're good. However, for the IR, I would like that they did the thing that Fractal did, where if you have the two and you pull up the level for one, it auto levels. So you always have the same volume, and it just always makes sure that the volume is the same and it balances automatically. Also, doing automatic phase correlation or phase correctedness would be nice without you having to do that with a slider. So there's a bit of room for improvement, which can be done on software side. But you can load your own IRs. The built-in caps are not bad. They don't necessarily floor me, okay? But you can get record-ready sounds with this, no questions asked. I think the user interface can be improved. Software can be improved. We know that. That's boss. We don't expect anything mind-blowing when it comes to the software side there. Airfeel works. I think it's too big, she said. It's more of a reverb than a room. I love the 3 knobs on the front. Very quick adjustment to where you need to go in for your levels. Love the speaker out volume. That's perfect. Love that it's a dual output for XLR in the back so that you can go stereo to your DAW. Since it's stereo, why isn't the effects loop stereo? That would be nice, right? It's just a wish, but again, we have to look at the price, $699. I think this is what it is. And in the $699 price range, I don't think it's got an equal right now. So let's look at it. A box that also has an amp in it, over $1,000 or starting at $1,000. Box that has built-in effects. The only thing that I can think of is the aux or maybe the torpedo stuff, but that's really just a reverb. So real effects with, compressor and delay. It's the aux box, and that's if it's on sale for $1,300, so not that price range. Size, weight, great. Feet, too short. Digital out, not there. Except the USB out. So yes, it is a digital out. You can record with it directly as an audio interface, but I would have liked to see an optical or SPDIF out, but yeah, you can use the USB to record with it, of course. In terms of its feature set, customizability with MIDI and all that stuff, ins and outs, weight and price, with all the bitching I've done in this video, which is important because I review shit, I don't think it has an equal right now. There is, of course, the Captor X, which does different things and doesn't do a whole bunch of things that this does. There's other things that do a bit more, but not. Aux doesn't amplify. So they all have their pros and cons. Look at all of them and decide which one you want based on the feature set that you need. But for bedroom practice, bedroom recording, taking it into the rehearsal and taming your amp and still making it come out of a cab with effects, including the effects in the effects loop, this is killer. That's the only one on the market that right now has that feature set at a price that I think is absolutely fair. And Bluetooth editability, which clearly works if you got 5 minutes to spare for it to connect. And with $100 extra with the Footwitch, once you can get it to work, you even have remote access to your sounds. And even if you don't use the speaker simulations in it, just going through the rigs and putting different effects on it for your cab, it's already worth it. Absolutely. I think Boss has a winner here. Room for improvement? Yes, but absolutely a winner. Links below. Thank you, Boss, for commissioning this video and trusting in my opinion. It's really just an opinion, okay? Some of the stuff might not matter to you, then killer. Some of the stuff might, so you might have to look at a different box. That's what I do. I try to advise you. Links below. As always, please use them because it supports the channel. And animals at the end.
I'm not made of solid gold, and my shoes, they are worn by the time they are way too old. I've not been touched in many years. Have a lost building up like of trust has kept me